So the most important thing to know is traffickers exploit vulnerabilities. Trafficking disproportionately affects vulnerable people. So this includes kids with past sexual abuse, kids already involved in illegal activities, foreign nationals. So these are women and men seeking seeking opportunity and a better life in the United States. Really important for our discussion today. Traffickers exploit cultural patterns and financial vulnerabilities. And victims often do not self-identify. So just getting back to the thing I just mentioned, most people aren't like, yes, I was trafficked. Most people don't recognize that they're a victim of something. Rather, they have some level of criminal activity, or there is just so much conditioning and shame or debt bondage or whatever. They feel like they have broken the law. If you ask any number of survivors who are foreign national victims, most of them have this, many of whom come legally here, have this horrible feeling of being undocumented, like I've broken the law, how could I ever ask for help? It really is a self-perpetuating, just terrible circumstance for people. Okay, so what are we talking about today? Did anyone recognize this from the news? Yeah, you guys know this. So have you guys ever seen illicit massage parlors around town? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah? So this is number one. I wish I had saved the photo from Yelp before, because I can't find it now on the internet. It looks super nice. It's a clear blue sky. I mean, it's beautiful. It's like a beautiful little strip setting in could be any town in USA, next to two others. This is after the police investigation. These are part of a trend of businesses where there is trafficking happening all over the United States. There's like 10,000, we estimate there's about 10,000 across the United States actively happening. They look like normal businesses. You hear about them all over the news. Have you guys been following in Dallas? Have you been seeing all the good work that these guys are doing? Everyone I ask because of my job will say, like, why are we suddenly seeing these everywhere? Have they always been there? And the issue with trafficking is that as we increase awareness, more people notice something that's always been going on in plain sight for a long time. This is true with labor trafficking. This is true with kids who are exploited in homes. The New York Times had a really great piece on this last month, actually a year ago today, had this great piece. It says, the ubiquity of massage parlors offers an accessibility and sheen of normalcy not offered by traditional brothels. And as massage parlors have expanded even into small town America in recent years, meticulously detailed review sites like Rub Maps have served as the Yelp and Foursquare of the illicit parlor business, with graphic anatomical descriptions of the women and explicit breakdowns of sexual services proffered. And I just think this is a really helpful way to understand. They offer the sheen of normalcy that creates this veneer of legitimacy for these businesses all over the United States and all over Dallas. So what is an illicit massage business? It has a registered business name, which these guys can provide in more detail to you, how that looks like specifically in Dallas. They ostensibly provide massage, wellness, and or other kinds of wellness services and are advertised as such on their doors. They derive some level of clientele and revenues through the provision of commercial sex acts, and they often and always operate in violation of state and federal laws, which might include statutes regarding human trafficking. Really more commonly, I know we are generally more interested in sex trafficking for all kinds of reasons as a country, but labor exploitation is not so good either, and there are tons of wage and labor violations that happens in these places. Debt bondage, and they are also in violation, often there's transnational organized criminal activity such as money laundering, visa and immigration fraud, smuggling, and or tax evasion happening there. So how big is it? As I mentioned before, there's about 10,000 illicit massage businesses in the US, and they can be found in every single state. Both sex and labor trafficking happen. Rubmaps.com, which I'll explain a little bit. I would not recommend you go home and Google this right away, but if you wanted to, Rubmaps, get flagged somewhere. Every time I give a presentation, especially to learn to like church women, I'll be like, you probably don't want to immediately go to work and look up rubmaps.com and get flagged somewhere. But basically, it's where buying and selling happens for illicit massage businesses, and there's lots of indicators on there that suggest whether or not illicit activity is happening. And it's also very important for transparency to note, not all commercial sex venues are human trafficking sites, even if they involve massage. First of all, the vast majority of massage businesses in the United States, including Asians, services run by folks of Asian descent, are legitimate legal businesses. We are talking about bad actors that happen to be happening at scale, right? So there's, if you went to the state and you looked at your massage board, or sorry, TDLR here in Texas, you would find there are lots and lots and lots and lots of very good, normal, regular massage businesses who are operating within the law, and that matters. We are talking about bad actors who are perpetrating a crime, And these elements have to take place in order for it to be actual human trafficking. You have to have force, fraud, or coercion bringing about the service of others, the compelled sexual services of others. This is what the map looks like of the U.S. As you can see, Texas and California have a disproportionate number of the illicit massage businesses. It also reflects population density, so that's not crazy that it looks like that. Yeah, in my own state in Ohio, we have 92. In Virginia, where I live now, we have 289, which actually is kind of a lot. So New York, so it really, in many ways, represents population. South Dakota has 2. So there you go. This is Dallas County. That looks familiar to you? So there's about 131. In my organization, we do a confidence rating where we try to get a sense of how current the data is, because RubMap's data isn't always up to date. So there's probably like 80 some that we have high confidence in. So that means someone's laid eyes on it, they're open, and they're marked as erotic and something else on RubMaps. The ones that we have lower confidence, it just means they probably moved in and out of business recently, but I don't know, this feels right. Does it feel right to you guys when I say like 130-ish? You can contradict me later if you want to. So this is very quickly just the process of what is happening with supply, with the supply chain behind the scenes for the illicit massage industry in the United States. So there's recruitment in source country. Typically in the United States, the people here are coming from China, Korea, and South Korea, and Thailand. They enter into the U.S. legally, usually on a visitor visa or H-1B or H-2B through exploitation of visa processes. Women are processed often through LA and Flushing, New York. So Flushing is a major hub of activity in the United States. And then they are distributed like commodities. So hopefully you all hear me saying this isn't okay. I'm not, but this is people as objects. They are distributed as commodities like a market good to illicit massage businesses throughout the country, and then they're moved frequently. And then they're exploited in illicit massage businesses. So who are the women who are trafficked? So in general, this is what we know. A lot of this is compiled from Polaris. So Polaris is the operates the National Human Trafficking Hotline. They're one of our partners in many of the things that we do. They work with law enforcement directly, including here in Dallas. And so we've worked with them on all kinds of research to figure out where are these women coming from? What are the supply chains? What are they told? How do they get here? What's actually happening with the visas? And so what we've seen is these women have recently come from these countries. Interestingly, here in Dallas, and I'll let you guys talk about it in depth, IMBs look a little bit different. There's a little bit more mixed ethnicity and nationalities happening on site in different places. Very common, though, to all illicit massage businesses. They carry debts or otherwise under extreme financial pressure. They speak little or no English, have no more than a high school education, and they are mothers. Why do I list all that? Like, what's the common factor there, right? Added up, these are vulnerabilities, right? If you don't speak English and you don't know the laws of the country, you came on a visa and maybe the visa expires, like, do you think law enforcement's on your side at that point, right? So these are vulnerabilities that make it very difficult to leave once you're here. So the way that they're recruited, women respond to fraudulent ads, and they take on exorbitant loans to pay fees as the brokers make the travel arrangements. So here's an example of a sample recruitment ad. This is from a website called Kakao Talk. It's a Korean website, and so loosely translated, this is what the recruitment ad says. You'll get 600 a day, 100 per hour. Work from 8 to 5 p.m., free working hours. This is loosely translated. You get 100 tip, $120 tip. What is the for you all? What would you say the average closing hour is for the illicit massage businesses that you investigate? Is it 5 p.m.?
No.
What time is it?
24/7, 365.
24/7, 365. Okay, so that seems deceptive. Same day pay, cash job, and then this is my favorite. Any woman born after 1994, okay. What are we saying? We like young women. Premium apartment is provided. What is the housing typically that you all see? Sometimes there's an apartment, right? Sometimes there's an apartment. What is the condition that you've seen like your most recent cases? Where are people sleeping? Since you're the experts.
Todd, you want to talk about
they sleep on thin mattresses, about 6 inches, or sometimes foam. They sleep on insulation that would be between your walls where it's just slipped over, and that's what they sleep on, and they're sleeping right next to each other in a little small room.
Sleeping on site, on location. Yes.
I would say, Elizabeth, also that the apartments are reserved for management.
Yeah.
Oh, So the point is, so there's these ads, they are robust, they are well done. These are run by very smooth operator networks. Okay, so this is the recruited women that arrive in the US, they end up typically living on site in significant debt, performing commercial sex acts, and without legal documentation, or their legal documentation lapses more commonly, and then they become undocumented. Life on site. So this is actually from a case in Ohio, and I don't have any of the beds in here, but you can see when you guys go to work, or when you're working full time, like, can anyone tell me, does a normal break room, do you typically have oil and eggs, and also all your crock pots and your cooking and your luggage and all of your clothes? Does that typically exist in your break room at work? No, right? You're not normally prepared to cook meals for a family of 10 on site, right? But this is and it's so important to note, in isolation, is this evidence of trafficking? No, but pulled together with all the investigative resources, that's a pretty good indicator that things aren't as they should be.
Mouthwash in bulk.
Mouthwash in bulk, yes, mouthwash in bulk, that's for all kinds of reasons. So why don't they leave if the circumstances are so terrible? Like, why don't they just leave? Aren't there other opportunities in the United States, right? So victims are controlled through a series of, or a number of factors. So there's fear of law enforcement, which, you know, to be honest, I'll have to ask you guys about this, because I'm not entirely sure with this population, the extent to which this is true, but lots of other forms with foreign nationals have really been conditioned. Like, people are coming from countries, right, where you want nothing to do with law enforcement. And I recognize that there are lots of loaded conversations about what that looks like in the United States with race, et cetera, so please don't think I'm playing it down. But in other countries where you literally want nothing to do with law enforcement, it can be quite terrifying. And especially maybe, let's say you are from Central America and deportation spells like what for you, and you're being trafficked. Like, you don't want that to happen. Shame is real, especially cultures where shame is just used in such different ways to control and manipulate people. Even shame, the number of women I've engaged with who are domestic survivors of sex trafficking here in the US, the level of shame they have from what they've been a part of for things that they view as their own fault. Like, people aren't going to talk about that. It's quite hard to get someone to talk. Threats to family, this is very real, especially in other forms of trafficking, but the threats back home, like, if you don't do what you're told, we're gonna harm or even kill them, we're gonna ruin your reputation, all kinds of things. And that is especially true when you have forms of trafficking that involve like MS-13 or other folks. Fear of deportation, that is real, and then the debt. So we have found that victims of this form of trafficking, when you look at everything they've done to get to the United States, their debt can add up to anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000. And that's because the trafficker says, hey, we're going to get your arrangements for the plane, so it's going to cost $10,000. And then you're going to pay for your lodging. And now you're here, and guess what? Now you owe us money for this. And then the goalpost just grows and grows so that they can never actually pay off the debt. So they're paying off debt back home, and maybe some are actually taking home some form of money. Like, usually there's some money that they're able to send home, some remittances, but they will never get ahead of that debt. I just want to really reiterate how big a deal debt bondage is. And so there was a huge case out of Minnesota a couple years ago that the U.S. Attorney's Office did. And debt bondage was like, they ended up charging 38 members of a Thai IMB transnational organized crime network, sex trafficking, money laundering, and conspiracy. And here's what they found in debt. Moreover, debt bondage are often enforced through means of force, threats of force, physical restraint, perceived restraint, or threats of law, legal process, or deportation. A trafficker may use these means to control a victim and compel a victim to continue working and return to work if the victim runs away. Like, there's no getting away from this. where is the market coming from their services? Like, where are people even finding out that there's these women in these illicit massage businesses and these 130 or 80 active ones here in Dallas? Like, how are they finding out? The thing about illicit massage businesses that are kind of beautiful from a market perspective, in a very perverse way, right? These organized crime networks are quite smart, is that there is essentially insatiable demand for commercial sex, and it's advertised through online review sites such as RubMaps. I did not post any of the graphic postings. So these, what city is this? I don't know, Maryland and Virginia. So this is from where I'm from. So this will kind of tell you the price for a sex act. So you can find these Johns, people who purchase sex, that you often follow the women from place to place when they have their kind of favorite women they follow around. It's a really good, once you start to piece the picture together of what's happening with the supply chains and what's happening with the women being sold online, it puts together this picture of exploitation. I don't know if I want to read this out loud. I think it's just worth reading what's happening. So this is a little bit more graphic, but as these guys will tell you, probably the least graphic of things on RubMaps. So this is a review from Sunny Massage in Houston, which has an unbelievable number of massage spas. So she's rushing me the whole time till finally I tell her, look, if you keep stopping, I'm never going to finish. So I know these girls hate it rough, but now I'm just ready to go. I think that's really important to explain. Like, we are talking about sexual assault happening in large scale all across the United States. These are the different sites where people post reviews.
Elizabeth?
Yeah.
Can I jump in with a few things? So, RubMaps is not the Bible of illicit massage businesses. A lot of the stuff that's on there may be fake. I don't like germs. But, so it's not the Bible. It helps corroborate. It helps lead us in the direction of different businesses. But it's based in another country. You know, and these sites, they want traffic, and so if there's not enough on there, they may create their own reviews, things like that. So it helps us as law enforcement to kind of direct us and give us hints of where there may be trouble. The second thing is Craigslist. They used to be real big when Backpage was up for prostitution, but after Backpage was shut down, Craigslist used to have a lot of their prostitution on the personals section. And so Craigslist didn't want to get in trouble, they didn't want to get shut down, so they took away their personal section. So that cut their prostitution almost completely out. So Craigslist is not really probably even top 10 anymore, but just a couple notes.